So today's video is going to be about different foiling techniques. We did have a request asking about what types of foils to use and when. I'm not going to go over a specific pattern of any sort in this video because really once you have the technique down, the artistry and creativity is up to you. So when you're thinking of different foiling techniques, you want to consider hair texture and hair density. A lot of people confuse these two things, and they're actually really different. So density is the amount of hair they have on their head, and texture is the actual diameter of the hair strand. So a common thing you will hear clients say is they'll come in and they'll say, I have really thin hair, which they're wrong, because a lot of, well, there's both scenarios, right? There could be someone with fine hair that has a lot of hair and someone with fine hair that has thin hair. But oftentimes people, what they're referring to is that they have really fine hair, but they actually have a lot of it. So that would be fine hair with a high density. So how I like to explain that to people is what I'll say is like you have an army of anorexic hair. That's basically what it is. So there are, I'm gonna talk about 5 different foiling techniques. Actually, I'm gonna show you a fine weave, a medium weave, a thicker weave, like a chunky weave, I guess, and then slices. And I'm actually also gonna show you how to use shapes. Oftentimes we cut bobs or very solid structures, and we don't really know how we want to highlight them. And you can actually create some beautiful dimension with color without doing a traditional foiling technique. So what I'm going to do with this mannequin is I'm just going to section it into 4 and then just do a bunch of fine ones, a bunch of medium ones, a bunch of chunky ones, and then a bunch of slices, and then you'll be able to see how things fall in the end. So this is not going to be the most beautiful pattern. All I want to do is show you the different techniques, and then at the end you can see each quadrant and see how differently it's going to look. So in this quadrant I'm going to do a medium weave. On this one, on the bottom, I'm going to do a thick chunky weave. On the quadrant up here I'm going to do a baby fine weave, and then in the quadrant up here I'm going to do slices. So things you want to consider, you definitely want to consider texture. So let's say they have really coarse hair. If I was going to do a really baby fine weave on someone with coarser hair, it has to be a little thicker so that you can be able to see it. Now if you're going to do it on Caucasian hair, let's say, the baby fine weave has to be a lot smaller, otherwise it's going to start to look it's going to probably look more like a medium type of weave. You also want to consider density, because if the hair is really thick, let's say you are somebody that likes to put your foils a centimeter apart or something. On somebody that has really fine hair, it's going to look a lot differently than someone that has really coarse hair. So with the sectioning, it's great to do it on a mannequin because their texture is pretty medium to coarse, I guess, and their density is medium to full. So on the slicing one, I'm going to put my density of foils a lot closer together on the top, and then on the bottom I'm going to space them out a little bit more so that you can really see how different it's going to look. Okay, so this one's going to be a medium weave. And I'm not going to foil the entire mannequin, I'm just going to do a few foils each. Alright, okay, so now we're going to move to this back section right here. This one I'm going to do a little lower. Okay, so this one I'm gonna do a chunkier weave, kind of like this. Now chunky could be anything. It's really what your artistic interpretation of it. So it could be like thick, like this. It could be, you know, as thick as this. Like it's just gonna, you're gonna definitely get a chunkier color. And again, make sure to consider the density of the hair. If someone has really fine hair and you had really close foils that was foiled like this, it's probably gonna appear close to a solid color. Whoops. I'm not gonna go all the way to the end so that you can see a little space between. So a trick for keeping your foils nice and tight to the root is put a little bit on, not right up to the root, because it is going to move a little as you paint. Paint the rest of it, and then hold it up and paint the root at the very end. And this will prevent your foils from bleeding everywhere. And then folding the ends over nice and snug will keep it from sliding down. There. So this is going to be a baby fine weave. We use our baby fine weaves a lot when we're doing balayages and ombres, just to help to break up the line. Because our hair is coarse, this baby fine weave is going to be a little not so fine, so that you can see it. Kind of about that. So talking again about density, this, if the person's hair is really, really fine, this might be the size of a medium weave for them, depending on how fine. Like if they have really fine hair and really low density of hair, this is definitely going to be a medium size weave for them. Actually, what I'll do on the really top here is I will do 2 slices that are ultra fine, and you can see how it's going to disappear into the hair if it's too fine for their texture. Okay, so last part is the slices. So just to space it out, I'm going to do them more spaced out down here and do them really close together up here so you can easily see the difference it's going to make. And again, the thickness of the slice is, obviously it can't be too thick because otherwise you're not going to be able to get right to the root, but it can be a little thicker or thinner depending on the density of the hair. So these ones I'm going to put about 1 centimeter apart. These ones I'll put about 1/2 centimeter apart. Okay, so we're going to set her aside and let her process. And then now with this one, I have chosen to use triangles as a shape. So I'm going to put one here right in the fringe, one here just on this side, and then one here just on this side. When I'm coloring, I like things to be pretty asymmetrical because I think it just looks, I don't know, I like the way that it looks. But asymmetrical, but that being said, I like things to still have a little bit of a balance. So this will like even out the shape, or I guess the color placement. So all I'm going to do is take lightener and color over these entire triangles like that. So here are the mannequins all washed and styled. First we're going to start with the one that we did the shape coloring with. These ones I chose triangles. So you can just see a beautiful cascade of color coming through there and just kind of around here as well. So when you're doing shapes, you really can do any shapes. You can do triangles, you could do rectangles, you could do semicircles. You really just got to consider where you're going to put them and how you're going to see that veil of color come through. Using shapes are great for more solid structures. Okay, so here we have our mannequin all done now. So what we did on this side was slices. So you can see up here where we kept the slices closer together. You can see how much more solidly red it is. So that's always something to consider. Your spacing is really dependent on how much color you want to see and again how dense the hair is. For somebody that has really thin hair, this would probably almost look completely solid. And then down here we kept it about a centimeter apart, and you can see how there's black nicely coming through there. And you can tell also with slices that the color is a little bit more solid. Then if we went over here, this is where we did the medium weave. You can see how it looks a little bit more streaky. So that's a great technique. A lot of times what I'll do when I'm doing highlights is, especially if the hair is coarser, I'll do slices through it if I want to see more predominant color, and then I will do weave through the top panel just to keep it more diffused rather than, it's just a great way to prevent having any types of stripes. On this side here, you will see the chunky color. So chunky weaves, I guess. You can see bigger flashes of color, which I really like. This is a nice alternative to the older technique of the peekaboo. Also what you can do is I staggered where my weaves were so you can see different chunks of black coming through depending on where you part their hair. A little bit more black that way, etc. And then lastly, on this side, we did a fine weave. On the very top, I did a very, very baby fine weave, so you can just kind of see like little strands of color breaking it through. I wanted to use red so that you could really see the dimension. When you're doing a balayage, let's say if the person is a level 8 or so and you did it with a 10, you're not going to really see that color as much. And then down here, if the person has coarser hair, we did a little bit of a thicker weave. This is when you can, sometimes you see those balayage looks that have like the more prominent highlights. That's what you would do. So now for the recap. Things to consider when you are foiling is the density of the hair, the texture of the hair, the pattern of where you want to see the color. So sometimes if you want it really diffused, I would put my foils in diagonally rather than horizontally. You can also use shapes to color, so these I use triangles. You can use squares, rectangles, semicircles. You gotta think like a semicircle, you gotta really visualize how the color is gonna fall in the hair. If you want a breakdown of all the different foil techniques, the kind of effects that they're going to give, just put your information into this link right here and we'll send you a PDF of the step-by-step of what was done today. Make sure to subscribe to our channel because we do release new videos every Friday.